Hello my friends! From time to time I put up random videos that have little to do with collecting prehistoric animals. I've still really focused on animals, including a couple of extant mammals and also insects. Today, however, this random video is going to be really random because it's more personal with some messages I want to share with you. So, if you're really short on time, and especially if you're sensitive to anything that might come across as the least bit preachy, please skip it altogether. About 6 weeks ago, when I was cooking, I saw what looked like a cockroach scurrying across my right lower field of vision. Or even worse, a gecko, of which we have plenty in Asia and which I personally find repulsive. I soon realized it wasn't that, but some floaters in my eye. I assumed it was just age-related degenerative changes, probably a precursor to cataracts, so I didn't think much of it. However, I did visit a doctor because I've had a knee injury that really needs an MRI and I wanted a referral. I mentioned the eye floaters in passing, and she seemed a lot more interested in that than in my knee, and she got me an early appointment with an ophthalmologist. On first assessment, I was given a dilated eye exam. This is where eye drops are used to dilate the pupils so that the consultant can get a fuller examination of the eyes. The consultant found there were some anomalies that looked suspicious and advised me to return in a week. On that second visit, it was confirmed that I had retinal tear. She informed me that this was an emergency and I had to have an operation ASAP. The surgery itself was very quick. I had it lasered and was reviewed 2 weeks later to see if the scar had formed properly. The follow-up seemed alright, but because I still have other floaters, I'll have to be reviewed regularly to assess the risk for retinal detachment, which often leads to blindness. The really terrible thing is not being able to exercise until at least 4 weeks after the surgery, and I'm going crazy with that. So a little bit more about retinal tears. Your eye, as you can imagine, is a pretty complex structure. The retina is a light-sensitive layer of tissue at the back of your eye. It converts light into electrical signals, which are sent via the optic nerve to the brain. And there the brain interprets these signals as images you can see. A condition called retinal detachment happens when the retina pulls away from the underlying tissues. And when that happens, it will no longer be supplied with oxygen and nutrients from the blood vessel layer underneath. And there are a few ways this can happen. In rhegmatogenous detachment, the retina first develops tears. Fluid buildup underneath the tear causes the retina to pull away and become detached. Now, these tears can be due to aging, trauma, or high myopia because the eyeball is stretched out and applies more stress to the retinal attachment. In exudative detachment, the fluid builds up under the retina even without a tear. Now, this can be caused by injury, inflammation, tumors, or age-related macular degeneration. There's also tractional detachment, where scar tissue grows on the retinal surface and causes it to pull away, and this is commonly seen in people with poorly controlled diabetes. The real danger is that because there's no pain, and most of the floaters aren't overly obtrusive, people tend to ignore it, and by the time it gets to an advanced stage, it's already too late. And that's exactly what happened to me. If I hadn't decided to see the first doctor about my knee and mention it in passing, I would never have caught it so early. So, some of the warning signs to be aware of are: the sudden appearance of many floaters is a very common one. These are specks that seem to drift across your field of vision, and when you try to follow one, it moves away. Flashes of light, blurred vision, gradual decrease in peripheral vision. When you actually have a retinal detachment, you'll see what appears like a curtain covering a part of your field of vision. If you have any of these, you must take it seriously and see an ophthalmologist as soon as possible, or at least present at the A&E department. If you ignore it because it's not painful, or, like I was, distracted by other concerns such as my knee, the danger of blindness is very real. The treatment I received was laser photocoagulation. The idea is to laser around the defect to seal the surrounding retina to the back of the eye so that the rest of the retina won't pull away. If I delayed any longer, there was a real risk that the retina would detach and pull away with a high risk of blindness. The National Eye Institute recommends that you should have an annual comprehensive eye exam that must include a dilated eye exam, starting at age 60 if you're white, at age 40 if you're black, because you have a higher risk of glaucoma, within 5 years of a first diagnosis of type 1 diabetes, and at the same time of first diagnosis of type 2 diabetes. There are no guidelines for APAs, but given the high prevalence of myopia in Asians, I think there's no harm starting at 40 anyway. Better to start early and discover you have nothing than to delay and discover you have something but too late. I was lucky, really lucky, but I still have a high risk because I'm not going to just sit around reading or lying in bed watching TV. Now obviously my MMA and inline skating are over, but it would be impossible not to exercise at all. And to me, that's completely dropping my quality of life. So moderating my exercise and my physical activity enough to keep the risk low without giving it up entirely is the middle ground. I wanted to share this with you for a few reasons. First, not to be melodramatic, I wanted you guys to know if I disappear for a long time, it will probably be due to this. Now, nothing in the last couple of years has stopped me from putting up a video regularly, not injury, flu, or even getting COVID, so I don't see anything happening that would stop me except for this. Now certainly it won't be from the lack of models to share, including revisiting some of the McFarlane dragons I've been putting off forever. But I've often subscribed to channels that suddenly ceased with no explanation and always left me concerned that something might have happened to the creator. So if I disappear, please don't worry that I've kicked the bucket. As far as I know, I don't have anything terminal. I cross the road at the lights after looking left, right, and then left again, and I avoid live arguments with big men about whether or not T-Rex had lips. But second, there are a few messages I'd like to share with you. I try to refrain from being preachy on this channel. I mean, nobody likes to hear someone pontificate, but I thought now's as good a time as any. So my first message is value your health and don't take it for granted. I understand we're all busy, and depending on where we live, medical expenses can be high and accessibility poor. But I strongly urge you, especially if you're over 40, to get regular eye checkups, including a dilated eye exam. The eyes really are windows to the world, and losing them shuts out a large part of it. Another important area is general health. If you're over 35 and you haven't been living the healthiest of lifestyles, you're at risk of developing certain chronic diseases such as diabetes, heart problems, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and various cancers. High-risk groups include people who are sedentary, overweight, smoke, and with a family history of the disease. In addition, people tend to put off little aches and pains, especially for sports people, what seem like small injuries. But the best time to get rehab or treatment really is when they're small, because once they become chronic, it's almost impossible to fully recover from, and at least for many people, to get enough time off work for the long rehab or rest that becomes necessary at a later stage. It's best to catch problems early, and if nothing is found, well and good, for now. But if you put things off until you really have no choice, by that time, it might already be too late and the medical bills astronomical. This experience was a real wake-up call about how something innocuous could actually be really serious. My consultant told me it was very lucky it got caught so early. As it is, I will have to remain consistently vigilant because I'm now in a high-risk category. So, have regular checkups, get health insurance, and adopt a healthy lifestyle as much as is possible. The second message is to appreciate what and who you have in your life. When I think about losing my eyesight, one of the biggest losses, not be able to see my loved ones again, and also enjoying many things in life. That means various sports, reading, and of course looking at my dinosaur models. And it might not just be sight, it could be any other faculty. But we can't ever know what might happen tomorrow from health issues or unexpected accidents. The fact is, we don't often stop to think about what we should be grateful for, including people, and then expressing it. Sometimes we're too busy, and other times we just assume that they must know. But it really is special to be told that from time to time. Now, relevant to collecting, how often do we really stop and look at what we already have and be happy about it, instead of always looking towards the next new thing, the next new acquisition? Now, this is more often the case when you have a lot of dinosaurs and it just blends into a kind of a blur. I'm definitely guilty of rediscovering a forgotten model I hadn't really examined since I bought it, and that's actually one of my motivations for doing these videos. It's a way to really look at what I have and take my time to appreciate them. And of course, I also hope that we have other things that we like, not just an obsession with dinosaurs, that give us joy and happiness, some of which we share with our loved ones, so that it's not all solitary. So if there's something you've been meaning to get back to, or to start on at some point, but kept putting off, why not take just 30 minutes and get started on it? I think nothing sums up the point of this video better than a quote from the Bard of Avon. For it falls out that what we have, we prize not to the worth whilst we enjoy it. But being lacked and lost, why, then we wreck the value. Then we find the virtue that possession would not show us while it was ours. So let's enjoy our loved ones, our hobbies, our health, and every other good thing we have going in our lives. Alright, so that's it. Just a bit of a ramble, but hopefully it served some of you in some way. Now, let's lift the mood a little bit and think about the fact that we're headed into Christmas and then the New Year. Next time, I hope to show you something nice. It will be a lot less somber than this video. I'll see you soon.